Welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. Tensions are rising as the United States launches a surprise military operation in Venezuela, capturing President Nicolás Maduro in what is being framed as a counter-narcotics strike, yet seen by others as a geopolitical flashpoint. With China and Iran backing Caracas and Europe watching nervously, the crisis echoes some Cold War dynamics as well. Joining us today on TVP World to unpack this evolving standoff is Velina Tchakarova, founder of Phase Geopolitical Consultancy, seasoned analyst with deep expertise in Eurasian security as well as strategic competition. She's going to help us connect the dots across the continents. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning and thank you for the invitation.
Can you help us understand if there's any particular decision behind the timing of this special operation, choosing Venezuela? Why now, when global attention is on things like Ukraine, Gaza, and Taiwan as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so first, what's important to understand is that the operation has been in the making for quite some time. Yes, the timing is not coincidental. The preparation has been very serious, and in the end, from U.S. perspective, quite successful in terms of the main goal, removing Maduro from his post. Now, they call it extraction operation. That's as far as it looks right now, it's not a regime change operation because the vice president is right now in charge. We shall see, of course, what will happen next. But from the perspective of the international community, of course, this operation is not legally bound. This is what's going to be discussed today. But in the end, the operation, as it has been conducted, is more or less to be extracted from the new U.S. security document, where the hemispheric security, the establishment of U.S. dominance in the direct neighborhood is first and foremost goal. And Venezuela was on top of this agenda. So it's not just about setting, sending the signal and setting the stage for this new Monroe 2.0 doctrine, but it's actually going to be a series of events which I expect to happen in Latin America and in the direct neighborhood of the US, with serious geopolitical implications for the global arena as well as for us here in Europe.
All right, staying on that geopolitical arena, the Chinese delegation did meet with Maduro on the very same day of the U.S. raid. Do you think this strike is also time to send a message to Beijing about who still controls this hemisphere?
Absolutely. Of course, this was certainly, as I already mentioned, not coincidental. It was not just about sending the right signal to the main rival, China. Being China, we know for a fact that Venezuela has been geopolitically and geoeconomically fully captured by China, Russia, and by extension also other proxies of China and Russia, such as Iran. So in that case, of course, the signal is clear. First move was made with Panama Canal, as you remember. Mm-hmm. And this is now the second step with Venezuela, where they just removed Maduro, sending a signal that they want to work with a new, political leadership in the country, which will be playing along the American geopolitical interests in the region. So no, it was not about the oil first and foremost. It was also not about regime change, as some may claim. Yes, it was internationally not compliant, but in the end, we are in a very new context, geopolitical context, what I call Cold War 2.0 logic between America and the dragon there. And Venezuela was this playfield for the last 24 hours, where we clearly saw what it means now that we have a full-fledged global power competition on all continents.
Right, like you mentioned, this does kind of broke some international norms. And looking at the perspective from Europe, do you think that, well, so far their statements have been relatively neutral, but do you think that they would stay this way, or more different narratives will start to develop between different nations?
Well, the European Union and the member states have been relying predominantly on the international law as a multilateral actor, as an institutional actor that is operating within the context of the international law. And in that sense, of course, this was very bad news, what happened yesterday, especially because, on the one hand, if you take a look at the statements coming from the European capitals, but also from the President of the Commission and the top diplomat, the European Union top diplomat, you clearly see this dichotomy. On the one hand, of course, referring to the international law, but on the other hand, also actually referring to the fact that they did not really recognize the rigged election outcome. The last one, which actually confirmed Maduro, they did not recognize this outcome. And so there is a clear dichotomy, which is going to be increasingly difficult to communicate to the own audience, and also on the global arena. Think of the major problem that the European Union is having right now, and again, European Union and member states, of course, when it comes to Greenland, because United States is going to make a move on Greenland as well. This is, as I already extensively explained on these TV shows in previous episodes, that it's Greenland, it's the Arctic, it's Colombia probably to some extent, it's Cuba. So these are countries which are now considered strategically important for the U.S. Hemispheric security. I'm not implying that there's going to be a regime change or any kind of military operation of that extent, for instance, in Greenland, but it's very, very difficult now for the European allies of United States and for the European NATO members to justify this kind of movements and steps. And this dichotomy is quite dangerous, in my view, when it comes to the next months, how to also tackle the other issues together. Think, of course, of the ongoing negotiations when it comes to Ukraine.
All right, and speaking of that very dichotomy, we also have a statement from the French foreign minister, which actually very well illustrate the cautious kind of approach they have right now. Let's take a look.
The military operation that led to the capture of Nicolás Maduro violates the principle of non-resort to force that underpins international law. France recalls that no lasting political solution can be imposed from the outside and that sovereign peoples alone decide their future.
But alongside the same post, he also mentioned that by confiscating power from the Venezuelan people and depriving them of their fundamental freedoms, Nicolás Maduro have greatly undermined their dignity and their right for self-determination as well. So from a more European perspective, if this is indeed taking place for the past 25 years and he's not seen as a legitimate leader, however, outside force should not be used in this way. If a similar situation occurs in this continent, how would Europe try to go ahead and solve that?
Well, Europe will be sending out statements of outragement. There is not really much that the European Union and the member states can really do geopolitically beyond diplomatic statements. And that's the whole point. Right now, what we are observing is the emergence of new power politics, which actually determines the behavior of the key geopolitical players, being United States, China, and Russia. That is the reason why we have so many proxy wars and military conflicts around the world. And it's increasingly difficult for the European Union, which is by definition not a geopolitical actor, and for the European Union members, which still have this means of power but do not want to exercise it for different reasons, not only referring to the international law, to define their new role. So I'm not justifying these moves. I'm trying to point to their quantitative increase, and I can assure you that this year we will see more of this kind of behavior on both sides, on both blocks. China, Russia now, given the weakened Iranian ally, Iran is currently facing also a significant wave of protests. We also saw how Iranian proxies were decimated by Israel with the help of US. And on the other hand, the US is reestablishing its position not only in the Western Hemisphere, but also in the Indo-Pacific region, where we also witnessed in December the worst wave of militarization, military drills, and establishment of new facts on the ground. And where is the European Union and the member states in all this, in all these contexts? Nowhere to be seen, except, as I said, for the diplomatic statements. So right now, I think that Europe will be mostly concerned, of course, with the negotiation process considering Ukraine. This is going to be the strategic goal number one. And again, if I have to use the example, the European powers are being sidelined even on their own continent in the process affecting directly the European continent, because the negotiation process is currently actually conducted on the one hand between United States and Russia, and on the other between United States and Ukraine, and probably in the next phase also between Ukrainian and Russian delegation, where the European interests are directly affected, and yet the European powers are not directly participating. So yes, diplomatic statements are important, but in a changing environment where the so-called international rules-based order is no longer relevant, we are going to have a phase in which the international rules-based order will be newly reshaped. And the question mark is by whom exactly? It means that there must be other means of power that the European Union members have to refer to.
And it does seem like we are entering an age of power politics as well. Thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.